My name is Frances Frell, and I'm 31 years old. I never imagined that the most important day of my life would also become the day I finally understood who my family really was. Not in a beautiful, tear-filled way. In the kind of way that strips everything clean and leaves only the truth standing. It was my wedding day, October 14th. The venue was a garden estate just outside the city, wrapped in white roses and soft string lights. I had spent 14 months planning every single detail. The flowers, the dress, the music, the seating arrangements, every napkin fold, every candle height. I had poured myself into this day because I believed, deeply, that it was the beginning of something real. Something I had fought hard to reach. His name was Sebastian. Sebastian Holt. We had been together for 4 years, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt genuinely safe with someone. He was steady. He was honest. He was the kind of man who remembered small things not because he was trying to impress me, but because he actually paid attention. I loved him for that more than anything else. 10 minutes before I was supposed to walk down that aisle, my maid of honor, Claire, slipped through the door of the bridal suite. She closed it quietly behind her. Her face was pale. Not nervous pale. Scared pale. She stood there for a moment like she was trying to find the right words, and then she just said it. "Frances, don't go out there." I laughed at first. I thought she was joking. Maybe some minor disaster had happened, a spilled drink, a missing boutonniere. Something fixable. But her expression didn't change. She stepped closer and lowered her voice even further. "Your family. They're at the altar. All of them. And it doesn't look right." I didn't understand what she meant. So I walked to the door myself and opened it just a crack. Just enough to see. And what I saw stopped the air in my lungs completely. My father was standing at the front of the ceremony space, holding a microphone. Not sitting in the front row like a proud father waiting to watch his daughter get married. Standing at the altar, holding a microphone like he owned the room. My mother stood beside him, gripping a folded letter in both hands, pressed against her chest like a prepared statement. And my sister, my younger sister Renee, stood slightly to their left with an expression I can only describe as satisfied. Not sad. Not concerned. Satisfied. Like she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The guests were seated and confused. I could see the murmuring ripple through the rows. Sebastian was standing at the end of the aisle, near the officiant, and even from that distance I could see the tension in his shoulders. He already knew something was wrong. My family had staged an intervention. At my wedding. In front of every person I had ever invited into my life. They had decided, without a single conversation with me beforehand, that this was the appropriate moment to air whatever it was they had been holding. The microphone. The letter. The rehearsed positions. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. I stepped back from the door. My hands were completely steady, which surprised me. Claire was watching my face, waiting for me to fall apart. But I didn't. Something inside me went very quiet. Not the quiet of fear. The quiet of clarity. Because what my family didn't know, what none of them had thought to consider, was that Sebastian already knew everything. Every secret they thought they were about to expose. Every piece of my past they believed would shatter this wedding like glass. I had told him myself. Months ago. Sitting across from him at our kitchen table, with my hands wrapped around a mug of cold coffee, I had told him all of it. And he had looked at me and said, "That doesn't change anything for me." My family had come prepared for a revelation. What they were about to get was something else entirely. I smoothed the front of my dress, took one long breath, and reached for the door handle. I walked out of that bridal suite with my head straight and my steps measured, and the moment the guests saw me appear at the entrance of the garden, a hush fell over everything. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Every head turned. And my father, standing at that altar with the microphone already lifted, froze when he saw my face. I was not crying. I was not hesitating. I was walking toward them. I could see the confusion pass through my mother's eyes first. She had expected me to be ambushed, to come out unaware, unprepared, blindsided in front of everyone I loved. That was the design of this. The microphone, the letter, the positioning, all of it was built around the assumption that I would be caught off guard, that I would crumble publicly, and that the wedding would collapse under the weight of whatever they were about to say. But I had seen them through that door. And more importantly, I had known this moment was coming for longer than they realized. I walked all the way to the altar. Not to my spot beside Sebastian. To my father. I stood directly in front of him, and I held out my hand, palm open, and I waited. He looked at my hand. He looked at my face. And then, slowly, he placed the microphone in my palm. The garden was completely silent. I turned to face the guests. Every person seated in those white chairs was someone who mattered to me, friends, colleagues, people who had driven hours to be there. They deserved honesty. So I gave it to them. I said, "My family came here today to stop this wedding." They came with a microphone and a letter and a plan. And I'm not going to pretend that doesn't hurt, because it does. It will probably hurt for a very long time. I paused. But I need everyone here to understand something. Whatever they came to say, Sebastian already knows. I told him myself. Every part of it. Because that is what you do when you love someone and you want to build something real with them. You don't hide. You don't perform. You sit across from that person and you tell them the truth, and you let them decide. I turned and looked at Sebastian then. He was watching me with the same expression he always had, steady, certain, completely present. He gave me one small nod. That was all I needed. I turned back to my family. My mother had lowered the letter. My sister's satisfied expression had dissolved into something harder to name. My father was standing very still. I spoke directly to them now, and I kept my voice calm because I meant every word and I didn't need volume to carry them. I understand that you are afraid for me. I understand that in your own way, you believe you are protecting me. But you chose to do this here. In front of everyone. Without a single phone call, without one conversation, without giving me the dignity of a private moment. That tells me something about what this was really about. And I think deep down, all three of you know what I mean. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. I handed the microphone back to my father. I smoothed the front of my dress one more time. And then I walked to where Sebastian was standing, took his hand in mine, and looked at our officiant and said, "We're ready." The ceremony was the most honest 20 minutes of my entire life. When Sebastian said his vows, his voice didn't shake once. When I said mine, I meant every syllable down to the bone. And when it was over and we turned to face the people in those chairs, most of them were on their feet. Not out of politeness. Out of something they had just witnessed that was harder to fake than applause. My family left before the reception. I saw them go from across the garden. I didn't chase after them. I stood with my husband, and I watched them leave, and I felt something I hadn't expected to feel in that moment. Not anger. Not relief. Grief. Real grief. For the version of that day I had once imagined, where they sat in the front row and cried happy tears and hugged me at the end. That day didn't happen. But this one did. And this one was mine. Sebastian and I danced until the lights came on and the staff started stacking chairs. Claire cried through most of the reception. The food was extraordinary. Someone gave a toast that made the entire room laugh so hard that 2 people spilled their drinks simultaneously. It was imperfect and warm and completely, irreversibly real. I have learned something that I want to pass on to anyone who is sitting with a version of this story in their own life. The people who love you without conditions will show you that love in private, not perform it in public for an audience. And the people who would stand at your altar with a microphone, they are not trying to save you. They are trying to remain in control of you. There is a difference. And the moment you feel that difference in your bones, you will know exactly what to do. I knew. I walked out. And I have never once looked back. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, then you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you stories like this one. Stories about real moments, real choices, and real people who refuse to shrink when the world expected them to. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back for the next one. You will not want to miss it.